Chapter 3. The Shape of Routine. Double receipts, double succeeds. The sun filtered softly through the curtains, casting long, warm streaks across the hardwood floor. Seven sat at the kitchen table, a steaming mug of coffee cradled between her hands, eyes drifting lazily to the clock on the wall. She knew the time, of course, but it felt reassuring to check. The predictability of the mornings, the quiet rhythm of their lives, was something she relied on, the first solid thing in her existence for years. Elio had already left for work by the time she woke up, like clockwork. His job as a neuroscience, a role that stretched long into the night, meant that she often had mornings like this to herself. And though there were days when she yearned for his company, his touch, those moments alone had become increasingly precious to her. Her phone buzzed gently beside her mug, drawing her attention. It was a message from Elio. "I left a key in the mailbox for you, just in case you need it. I'll be home later than usual tonight." His words were brief, efficient, practical. And yet, as always, she found warmth in them. He was thoughtful in his own way. He never let a day go by without reminding her that she was loved, cared for. Or at least, that's how she interpreted his gestures. Maybe he just didn't know how to show love in other ways, she'd tell herself. But it worked for them. Elio had been like that from the beginning. A man of few words, but with a presence that filled up spaces, softened them. He never pushed her into a mold, never demanded more than she was willing to give. And Seven had been grateful for that. But lately, something had shifted. It was subtle, something she couldn't quite put her finger on. Elio's routines had started to change, ever so slightly. The way he kissed her goodbye had become less lingering. The brief smiles that once spoke volumes now felt distant, hurried. His conversations with her were shorter, focused more on logistics than the quiet, meaningful exchanges they used to share. She wasn't sure if she was imagining it. Maybe it was the stress of his work, she told herself. Everyone at his firm had been under more pressure lately with the new deadlines, the international expansions. He was working harder than ever, spending longer hours at the office, and it was wearing on him. He had always been a man who preferred to hide his stress rather than show it, and she respected that. It was something they had in common. Still, there was something in the air now. An unfamiliar weight that sat heavily between them. She couldn't place it, but it was there. Every morning, she found herself wondering if today would be the day he finally talked about whatever it was that seemed to be pulling him away from her. The clink of the mug against the table jolted her from her thoughts. She hadn't realized she'd been staring off into the distance, her fingers curled tightly around the ceramic handle. It was a moment of quiet, the house, the room, the life they had built around themselves, all seeming to settle into a steady hum. A hum that used to comfort her, and now only filled her with a strange unease. Seven looked at the clock again. He would be home soon, and she knew what she'd find. He would walk through that door with his usual calm, his tired smile. He'd say something about how difficult the day was, how much longer his workday had been than expected. She'd listen patiently, nod, offer to make dinner. They'd talk about their plans, about their future, about the little things that mattered. That's what they always did. But deep down, she felt a tightening in her chest, an inexplicable tightness that had nothing to do with their routine. Something had changed in Elio. He was still the man she loved, the one who had proposed to her with that soft, knowing smile. But the man he had been was starting to slip away, and she was unsure if she even knew what the new version of him was. And so, as the afternoon light grew deeper, Seven let herself sink into the comfort of their predictable patterns. She busied herself with small tasks, tidying up their home, preparing herself for the evening. But a part of her couldn't shake the feeling that whatever was brewing beneath the surface was more than just the weariness of a busy career. Something more ominous was creeping into their marriage, and she feared the moment when it would all come to light.